Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my February wrap-up and March TBR video. Had a really good reading February with some book prize reading and some reading of my own. I probably read more books in February than I think I've read in any month for a really long time, probably since I was in college, since I'm a slow reader, and I think that's created a false sense of optimism for me going into March. So let me just real quickly run through with you the books that I read in February, give you a reaction to those that I can, and then go on and talk about what I plan to read in March, which for me is filled with read-alongs, readathons that I'm going to kind of dip in and out of. So first of all, BookTube prize reading. I'm a judge for the nonfiction BookTube prize this year. I can't remember what letter my group is, but I've read 5 of the 6 books so far. Just this weekend I finished Made by Stephanie Land, which you can read on the front, says hard work, low pay, and a mother's will to survive, about a single mother attempting to survive in a world with government benefits and low pay and few opportunities. Also in Their Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, the story of a woman and her dream of a relationship and how that didn't work out, which apparently upset Zelda. The Collected Schizophrenia by Esme Weijun Wang, about the authors. These are essays related to the author's research into and personal experience with mental illness. Breathe, A Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry. Essentially, as it says, a letter of information. She wants her African American sons to remember about being African American and growing up in the United States. And then Solitary by Albert Woodfox, essentially a memoir of sorts about his almost 4 decades in solitary confinement in the Louisiana prison system, confined for a crime that he did not commit. Those are the 5 books in the BookTube prize judging that I've read. This month I still have to read Lisa Taddeo's 3 Women, which I haven't gotten a copy of yet, but I have on a hold-in for at the library. Also this month I read some books on my own. 3 of these related to Black History Month. The first book I completed was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This is Butler's story about an African American woman in a mixed race relationship who goes back in time to essentially ensure the birth of her ancestors, who were the product of a mixed race rape between a slave owner and an enslaved woman. It's a really powerful, I think, meditation on what slavery meant, how it actually worked, how it affected people, how it affects people's views and attitudes still today. I really like that. I also read Sula by Tomi Morrison. This is a part of the Reading Tomi Morrison 2020 read-along, where we're reading each of her books in chronological order, one a month till the end of the year. This is her 2nd book. This is a really, I thought, very good but somewhat simple but surprisingly maybe deep story about an African American community in Ohio and the relationship between 2 girls, Sula and Nell, kind of representing both halves both potential halves of the way we view characters as good or bad, and with a lot of really kind of subtle references to the African American past in the United States, and from my point of view, a fair amount of magical realism, which really just made for a really great book and a good read. Also, my 3rd James Baldwin novel, Another Country. I read this as a buddy read with Sean the Book Maniac, and was just completely stunned and blown away by this book. As I've said several times now, the first 90 pages of this book have to be the best thing I've ever read, or really close to being the best thing I've ever read. It's just incredibly powerful and a searing look at race relations in the United States, at least as they existed in the 1960s, but to be honest with you, I don't think there's that much difference between those things today. Just a really powerful, involved novel. about that. And I think I'm going to post a review of this book, a complete review of this book later this week sometime. And then just kind of on a whim, I saw this book, You Never Forget Your First, a biography of George Washington by Alexis Cole. I saw this book on BookTube somewhere, I suspect. Can't remember exactly where. Maybe it was on Steve Donahue's channel. And the title attracted me. I'm a George Washington fan. And I'm not a fanboy, because I promise you I'm well aware of his many flaws and shortcomings, which this book does a good job of reminding us of, while at the same time kind of humanizing Washington and taking him a little bit out of the hands of his more admiring biographers, perhaps, and taking some kind of amusing shots at them as well. I really enjoyed this, and as a technicality, today's the March 1st. I just finished this morning, so I kind of cheated in terms of that being February reads. But, you know, a really good month. That's 9 novels. Also read 2 short stories. For my short story project, Sweat by Zora Neale Hurston and Redheaded Baby by Langston Hughes, which I posted videos about. And both of those stories were really good reading experiences as well. So, what do I plan on doing in March? Well, March for me is the month of read-alongs, readathons. So, I have picked way too many books. I can already tell just by looking at them. The first thing, I'll say again, I do still have to read 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo for my BookTube prize judging. And hopefully I'll get my hands on a copy of that soon and get that book knocked out so I can be ready, so I can think about my books and how I want to rank them for the judging. Also, I've been kind of participating in Mel over at Mel's Bookland Adventures and Britta Bohler's Read German Books kind of read-along, readathon. The first book I read, which I counted, was The Immigrants by W.G. Sebald, which I read in January. This is a book by Jenny Erpenbeck. This is called Visitation. I believe Juan at Bookish Islander just finished this. She's a German author, and so I'm looking forward to reading that for the Read German Books readathon. Also, still continuing on with the Tomi Morrison 2020 read-along. This month's book in March is Song of Solomon. This is my favorite Tomi Morrison novel of the ones that I've read, so I'm looking forward to a reread of that. And then it's also March Mystery Madness, which I didn't participate in last year, somewhat surprisingly and somewhat disappointingly, but I'm going to participate in it this year. The March Mystery Madness is hosted by a number of people, and it's an old and venerable read-along, readathon. I'm just going to link you to Jenn from Remember to Read's channel about the March Mystery Madness read-along, and let you find the other hosts there. Jenn is the one that I know the best and I follow. There are 5 prompts, and I don't think I'm technically going to live up to any of the 5 prompts, but I am going to read mysteries. Georges Simenon's second Maigret novel, The Late Monsieur Galette. I'm looking forward to getting to that. Apparently, so it's okay. Apparently, Simenon writes nice short detective novels. This one I think clocks in at 155 pages. So this one actually does meet one of the prompts. This one is one of the prompts is to read a mystery novel whose page count is divisible by 5. Unless I miss my guess, 5 times 31 is 155. Yes, that should be right. So there we go. I do actually meet one of the prompts. Good for me. I also want to read Faceless Killers by Henning Mankell. This is the first in the Kurt Wallander mystery series. I do love me a Scandinavian mystery. Particularly, I watch a lot of mystery shows on television, and the Kenneth Branagh Kurt Wallander series is one of my favorites, which I wish I could still access for free, but this will be the first time I read anything by Mankell. And then I have a choice of 2, and this is kind of like if I have time. I've had this copy of Innocent Blood by P.D. James for a long time. I'll be honest with you, I bought it a long time ago thinking it was a part of her series of Adam Dalgliesh novels. Dalgliesh is one of my favorite fictional detectives, and when I found out it wasn't, you know, I just put it aside and didn't read it, but I might get to this one this time around. Let's see if its page numbers are divisible by 5. Yes, this one's also 390 pages, also divisible by 5. Let's see if it was published in a year ending in 5. Published in a year divisible by 5. 1980. Does that count? I can't remember. Anyway, so I might read that. And then also I might read Elmore Leonard's Kill Shot. Elmore Leonard is just a great kind of crime writer, and just a great writer, period, to be honest with you. And so always anxious to have an opportunity to get to another of his books. I don't believe this meets any of the prompt qualifications for March Mystery Madness, but I'm going to say I'm participating in it, even though, you know, as a technicality, I'm not really hitting any of the prompts or challenges. Anyway, so maybe 3 detective novels for March Mystery Madness. I'm going to guess it's more likely to be 2, but we'll see. March is also the Irish Read-Along Month, which Elaine Howlin is one of the hosts of, and I'll leave a link to her channel down below. So you can find the other host there. And it's also, March is also Marching Mammoths, or March of the Mammoths month, which you're supposed to, if you want to participate, read a book which has more than 800 pages in it. This is an event hosted by Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, Lukas at Totally Pretentious, and Big Owl Books. I'll leave links to their channels down below as well. And I'm just going to combine 2 things in one, and I'm going to attempt to read the collected stories of William Trevor. These would be stories published, I believe, before 1990. This book weighs in at, I believe, let's see, 1,261 pages. And it's a book of short stories, so I'm hoping that it kind of makes it easier to go through, since it's not all one continuous story. And I do love William Trevor and his work. I've read a lot of these stories before, some in collections that are included here and some not, but I'm just going to go through them all beginning in order. So this will be both my Irish Read-Along book and my Marching Mammoth book for this month. Anyway, there you go. There's my February wrap-up and my March Overly Ambitious TBR. If you read any of these books, have any thoughts about any of this stuff, please let me know what you think in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching.